I'm Darrin Pratt, the director of University Press of Colorado, which also includes our Utah State University Press imprint. And I've been director here for 20 years now. And I've also worked in the past at Indiana University Press, Columbia University Press, Ohio State University Press, and very briefly also at Westview Press here in Boulder. So I will do my best to present a university press perspective. I mean, a lot of it will be from the perspective of one press, but I'll try to tie that a little bit to other presses as well. So for context, that one press, the University Press of Colorado, was incorporated in 1965. So we're actually 55 years old this year. We are a 501c3 nonprofit membership corporation. So we're a separate 501c3 supported by 9 institutional members in 3 Mountain West states. You can see the list of members in the right-hand side there. 7 universities in the state of Colorado, plus the University of Wyoming and Utah State University. The University of Colorado's membership is for all 4 CU campuses, and it's managed through the system office. So with the support of those 9 members, we publish approximately 50 new titles a year under either the University Press of Colorado or Utah State University Press imprint. And then we publish, co-publish or distribute another roughly 10 titles per year, either for or with those 9 members in the green box. So we actually have 3 total imprints now: the University Press of Colorado, the main imprint, the Utah State University Press imprint, which we've been managing since 2012 through a licensing agreement with Utah State University. And then last year, the University of Wyoming Press the University of Wyoming joined our membership, and we are building a new imprint for them, the University of Wyoming Press. That's still a work in progress. So those imprints collectively have 836 books in print. I did put books in print, the print part in scare quotes in the header here, because these days, the idea of a book being print being the main signal of its availability is not as important as it once was. 768 of those 836 books in print are available in ebook form, which would be 92% of the catalog. But I should mention that that percentage is a little bit misleading, because there are books that we have available as ebooks that we don't actually have in print form. So it's probably some percentage lower than 92% of the 836 that are in print that are available in ebook, but then there are some available in ebook that aren't in print. We also have one book that we published as a website. It's called Hayden's Landscapes Revisited. You can Google it. It's by Tom Huber, who's a professor of geography at UCCS. And that website has no print counterpart either. All new University Press of Colorado and Utah State University Press books are simultaneously published in digital form, except occasionally we have a book with rights restrictions where we can't release it in ebook form. That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Of those 768 books that are available as ebooks, 559 or 73% of those titles remain gated or paid for content, and 209 of them are available open access. So that's 27%. So the gated content is available either paid for direct to consumer or through ebook vendors such as Apple, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and more. And then on the library side, it's available, in the sense of being gated through JSTOR, Project Muse, EBSCO, ProQuest, and others. But I listed those 4 because they're the biggest 4 in that space, at least for us. The open access titles have been funded or supported by a variety of institutions. A good chunk of them are supported by the Utah State University Digital Commons, where they reside, although they also are available in other places, but that's their primary, their home location, I guess. We have 25 titles that have been supported by Knowledge Unlatched, which I'll talk about again on the next slide. 2 that were supported by the National Science Foundation. And then the one website, which I mentioned, was funded in part by the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, since it was their faculty member. And then just recently, we also flipped a title um, via the Hockey Trust, where we had a collection of Harvard faculty who wanted to use a book in a course, but the book was out of stock and it was going to be too expensive to reprint. So we just took the Hockey Trust file and switched it to a Creative Commons license. So it's now available open access to anyone, and the students in that course have access. In addition to the books that I mentioned that we are making directly available those ways, a few other partnerships or initiatives that are worth noting. Mountain Scholar is a big one for our members. So Mountain Scholar, which is up at Colorado State University, has a collection of our titles that goes beyond the 209 that are available open access. So 714 of our titles are available to all of our members. It's IP range protected. So if you're sitting at um, a computer at any one of our 9 members, or even if you're dialing in via VPN, you can get access to any of those titles in that collection. And the only reason that all 768 aren't available is that there is a small set of titles that we withheld from the collection because they are textbooks, and we rely pretty heavily on those textbooks every year for revenue in support of our budget, which I'll talk about in a bit. Another partnership that we have is with the WAC Clearinghouse, or the Colorado State University Open Press. The Open Press is sort of an umbrella for potentially multiple imprints, but right now it only has one, which is the Writing Across the Curriculum Clearinghouse, which has been making books available open access since the late 80s. They brought us in as a print partner because many people don't want to use the ebook, they want print. So they needed somebody to produce print volumes for them. So they do the open access ebook, we produce the print volume. Starting in March, we made all of our content available for free to support the rapid and unprecedented change to remote learning across the country, and the need for remote resources that came along with that. So both JSTOR and Project Muse made all of our titles available for free. Project Muse did it through June 30th, 2020. JSTOR did it through August, the end of August 2020. I mentioned Knowledge Unlatched on the last slide. So Knowledge Unlatched is a broker essentially between publishers and libraries to make titles available open access. The way that's worked since about 2014 is that publishers submit titles to Knowledge Unlatched, and then Knowledge Unlatched goes out and seeks funding from libraries internationally to support making those titles available OA. But one of the things that Knowledge Unlatched was finding was that it was such a hodgepodge of things that were coming in that they had difficulty supporting some parts of those collections in terms of getting pledges from libraries. So they came to us and asked if we were interested in doing something more sort of controlled and specific. So we came up with an idea that they liked, to put together an archaeology collection from 6 publishers. So University Press of Colorado is spearheading the collection. It also includes University of Alabama, Arizona, Florida, Texas A&M, and Utah presses. And between us, we're committing to doing 20 new titles every year and 20 backlist titles open access for 3 years. So 60 new titles, 60 backlist titles over the course of the 3 years. And they are in pledging for the first round of that right now. We've already received some pledges, but it's going to heat up in the next couple of months. The pledgings usually wrap up. The pledging wraps up in December. And then the last partnership here is with Manifold, which is really a platform managed by the University of Minnesota Press, and it was funded by the Andrew Mellon Foundation. And what it is a platform for producing open access multimedia titles. We're working on a title called The Greater Chaco Landscape, which is funded by the National Park Service and actually managed, that the grant is managed by the CU Boulder Anthropology Department. Steve Lexon there is the PI on the grant. And that book will include both text and video chapters, including 9 video chapters that have no corresponding text, that are video recordings of Navajo, Hopi, and Zuni scholars talking about the significance of Chaco and the sacred landscapes to their people. And that should be out in the spring of 2021. The videos are already up on Manifold. So a little bit of data. Last year, the 2019-2020 academic year, this is how our requests to item requests played out on 2 platforms, JSTOR and Project Muse. I wish I had data for ProQuest and EBSCO as well, but I do not, so I'm sharing the data I do have. Over the year, we had just shy of 1 million item requests on those 2 platforms. And it broke down as follows. We had 94,000 or 9% of those item requests coming in via the paid access. 397,000 or 40% were open access, and then just over 500,000 were part of that free access period in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. So over 50% were during that free period. And whoops, wrong way. Here we go. Looking at that over time, the 74%, the lion's share of the item requests came, from the middle of March through June 30. So with most of them coming in April, May, and June, which makes complete sense, again, because everyone was suddenly teaching remotely, needed remote resources, and a lot of that came in through that free collection. What's worth noting, though, is that if you control for the number of titles in each one of those collections, the open access titles actually have the best usage, 11 times the usage of paid access versus only 4 times the usage for the free access when you control for the number of titles. So the open access titles on average are being requested 1,900 times a year versus only, it was 660 for the free access titles and only 160 for the paid access. So the open access titles get requested a lot more. And, this sort of begs the question in a lot of ways. If your mission is to disseminate knowledge and scholarship, why wouldn't you make all your ebooks available open access all the time if open access has such heavy usage compared to gated content? And the answer to that is fairly straightforward, and that's that we do have a mission to disseminate scholarship and knowledge, and it's a very important part of our mission. But the other part of our mission is to actually produce that knowledge in the first place. And to produce that knowledge, we need funding. So our annual budget sources play out like this. So our annual budget at the University Press of Colorado is $1.4 million to produce those 50 books and co-publish or distribute the other 10, right? So of that 1.4 million, 1 million comes in through book sales. So only 400,000 is coming in from other sources, whether that's member dues or individual title subsidies, donations that we get in support of our operation. So sales are a really significant part of our budget. And of those sales, a fifth of them are ebook sales. So that 13% ends up being $200,000, or a fifth of our revenue from sales that support our budget. And maybe more importantly, over time, you can see from this chart over the last 5 years, print sales have actually declined by 23%, even as ebook sales are going up. So ebook sales are becoming more important to our budget, even as print sales are becoming less important. In fact, we have a bit of a problem, a conundrum in there, which is that for every dollar of ebook sales we're gaining, we're losing $1.69 in print sales. So the ebook sales are growing, but they're not growing fast enough to completely offset the print sales. So, you know, in a nutshell, the reason why we don't flip all of our books to open access is that we're struggling to find ways to maintain the budget that we have to continue the output that we have. That 200,000 in ebook sales supports 6 titles annually, and statistically, one of those 6 titles will end up being a member faculty. So if we were to flip everything to open access, that'd be 6 fewer books we produce and 1 fewer member faculty title that we release every year. And then to broaden that out to all university presses, if all university presses who report to the Association of University Presses operating statistics, so significantly, this doesn't include Oxford or Cambridge, who collectively publish somewhere between 3,000 to 4,000 books every year. But excluding them, if all university presses flip to OA, they'd be giving up 29 million in ebook revenue in total, which would basically remove the funding for about 1,000 new books every year. So that's in the broader picture why university presses at large aren't necessarily jumping all over OA for the dissemination side, because we're caught with this double mission of both the production and dissemination, and the support of one could seriously hamper the other. And that's really all I had to say presentation wise. I was hoping we could leave some time for Q&A, because I often find that's a better source of information in some ways. I did put up my email so that you can reach out and contact me with any questions you might have afterwards, and some links to a couple of blog posts that I wrote that elaborate a bit more on university press finances. So that's all, and I'm happy to take questions.
And I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay. And maybe I'll stop my